The anomaly appeared on the monitors at 3:17 a.m. Earth Standard Time. A small blip at first, easily dismissed as a glitch or space debris. But Lieutenant Commander James Wilson had worked at the Deep Space Monitoring Station for 15 years. He knew the difference between random noise and something real. "Run that signature again," he ordered, leaning closer to the main screen. The tired technician nodded and repeated the scan sequence. The blip returned, then another, and another. By dawn, there was no denying it. Something large was moving at the edge of our solar system. Multiple somethings. "Get me the director," Wilson said, his voice steady despite the hammering in his chest. Within hours, the facility hummed with activity. Scientists and military personnel crowded around displays, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of screens showing the object's steady approach. They were massive, each larger than the biggest ships humans had ever built. And they moved with purpose. 7 objects confirmed, reported Anna, the lead tracking specialist. Speed and trajectory suggest artificial control. These aren't natural bodies. Director Roberts stood with his arms crossed, deep lines etched across his forehead. "Have they responded to our signals?" Wilson shook his head. "Nothing. We've tried all standard frequencies and protocols." The first images came through later that day, grainy and distant, but clear enough to eliminate any doubt. Ships, spacecraft of alien design, sleek and imposing, with configurations unlike anything in human engineering. The news spread quickly through government channels. Emergency meetings were called. Military forces worldwide went on high alert, though they all knew their weapons would likely be useless against visitors who could cross the stars. 4 days later, the breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Mark, a young communications expert with a background in cryptography, detected patterns in the electromagnetic emissions from the ships. "They're talking to each other," he explained to the assembled team. "And I think we can decode it." Working around the clock, Mark and his team built translation algorithms, feeding in every scrap of data they could capture from the distant vessels. The computers strained under the complex calculations, but gradually, fragments began to make sense. Imperial Scout Fleet reporting planetary assessment of System C-4721. Indigenous civilization at early space development. Designation: Earth. Resource value: moderate. Resistance potential: minimal. The room fell silent as the translation appeared on screen. "There's more," Mark said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They refer to themselves as the Orcs Empire. And from what I can gather, they've done this before. Many times." More transmissions were intercepted and decoded over the following days. The picture they painted was grim. The Orcs Empire spanned hundreds of star systems. They had been expanding for millennia, absorbing other civilizations, sometimes peacefully, but often through force. And now, Earth was next on their list. The Global Defense Council convened in secret. Representatives from every nation gathered in the underground facility beneath Geneva. The usual political divisions melted away in the face of this new threat. "What are our options?" asked the council chair, her eyes moving from face to face around the table. The military advisor spoke first. "Our most advanced weapons would be like throwing stones at a battleship. We can't fight them with conventional means." "Then we negotiate," suggested another. "Offer trade, cultural exchange." Wilson, invited to present the latest intelligence, stepped forward. "The transmissions suggest negotiation isn't their standard approach. They assess, categorize, and then implement their expansion protocol. Most species are simply incorporated." "And those that resist?" someone asked. Wilson's expression was answer enough. A scientist from the Quantum Physics Division cleared her throat. "There might be another way. We've been developing defensive technology based on principles that appear to be unknown to them." All eyes turned to her. "Our analysis of their communication shows technological patterns. Advanced, yes, but with specific gaps. Their approach to quantum manipulation is different from ours. They've gone down one evolutionary path, while Earth scientists have explored another. Hope, thin but real, rippled through the room. "How long to deploy?" asked the chair. "Weeks, if we redirect all resources, but it's untested. Theoretical in some aspects." The council deliberated through the night. By morning, they had their answer. Earth would not submit. Earth would not fire the first shot, but Earth would be ready. As the alien ships crossed the orbit of Neptune, humanity prepared for its first, and perhaps final, stand against the stars. Admiral Drell stood before the massive viewing screen, hands clasped behind his back. The blue-green planet rotated slowly in the display, clouds swirling across its surface. Earth. Just another world to be added to the glory of the Orcs Empire. "Your assessment, science officer?" Drell asked, not taking his eyes off the planet. Officer Talia consulted her datapad. "Standard Class 4 civilization, Admiral. Early space exploration phase. They'd ventured only to their nearby moon and sent primitive robots to neighboring planets. Weapons capability. Nuclear-level destructive power. No energy shields. No faster-than-light technology. They've barely begun to harness fusion energy." She swiped through more data. "Their military forces are divided among nation-states. No unified planetary defense system detected." Drell nodded. He had conquered dozens of worlds at this development stage. It was almost routine. Resources. Rich in liquid water. Diverse biosphere. Abundant rare minerals, particularly in their ocean floors. The inhabitants call themselves humans. Talia paused. "There is one unusual note, Admiral." "Go on." "Their technological development path shows irregularities. Most species follow predictable patterns of advancement, but these humans have made unexpected leaps in certain areas while neglecting others." Drell finally turned from the viewing screen. "Explain." "They developed nuclear weapons before achieving planetary unity. Their computer technology evolved at an extraordinary rate, and their theoretical physics work." She frowned at her readings. "Some of their scientific papers explore concepts our own researchers have only recently begun to consider." "A potential threat?" asked Commander Vex, the security chief. Talia shook her head. "Their practical applications lag far behind their theories, and they're too busy fighting among themselves to pose any real danger to us." Drell returned his gaze to Earth. Such a peaceful-looking world. They never suspected what was coming. "Prepare the standard first contact protocol," he ordered. "Deploy survey teams to their moon base first. I want detailed scans of their defensive capabilities before we make our presence known." "Yes, Admiral." The command deck hummed with activity as officers carried out their assigned tasks. This was the moment Drell enjoyed most, the calm assessment before action. Soon, Earth would join the thousands of worlds under Auriac's control. 3 stealth scouts detached from the main fleet, moving silently toward the small human outpost on their moon. Their technology made them invisible to Earth's primitive detection systems. Or so they thought. "Admiral." The urgent voice of Scout Leader Kren came through the communication system. "Our approach has been detected." Drell frowned. "Impossible. Their sensors are not advanced enough." "Nevertheless, Admiral, they are tracking us. We're receiving a directed transmission from Earth." This was unexpected. Drell's mind raced through the possibilities. Had they underestimated these humans? "Put it through," he ordered. The viewing screen changed to show a human male in what appeared to be a formal uniform. Unknown vessels, the human spoke in his native language, automatically translated by the ship's systems. "This is General Robert West of the Earth Defense Coalition. We have detected your presence and approach. Identify yourselves and state your intentions." Murmurs spread across the command deck. The humans shouldn't have been able to detect their scouts, let alone track them accurately enough to send a directed transmission. "No response," Drell commanded. He turned to Talia. "Reanalyze their detection capabilities. I want to know how they spotted our scouts." The science officer's fingers flew across her console. "Admiral, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from Earth. They appear to be using quantum detection arrays, but their configuration is different from our understanding of the technology." Drell's eyes narrowed. In his 300 years of service to the Empire, he had rarely been surprised. This primitive world had just managed it. "Commander Vex," he said, "prepare a first strike force. Let's test their defenses properly." "Scale of deployment, Admiral." Drell considered. These humans had shown unexpected capability, but they were still vastly outmatched. One battle group should be sufficient. Target their largest military installations. Standard subjugation protocol. As the battle group prepared for deployment, Drell studied the humans' transmission again. The calm confidence of General West bothered him. These humans should have been panicking at the discovery of alien ships. Instead, they seemed prepared. "Admiral," Talia called out, "I found something in their global communication network. They've had theories about alien life for centuries. Some of their scientists even proposed defensive measures against potential hostile contact." "Theoretical defenses won't save them," Vex scoffed. "Perhaps," Drell said quietly, "but let's not underestimate them again. Increase the battle group to double strength. I want this first demonstration to be decisive." The massive ships of the Orcs fleet began to shift position, preparing for humanity's first lesson in galactic politics. Admiral Drell would teach these humans their place in the universe. Little did he know that Earth had some lessons of its own to teach. Commander Vex watched with satisfaction as the battle group moved into formation. 20 warships, each capable of devastating an entire continent, arranged in the classic Orcs spearhead attack position. Earth would learn quickly what it meant to face the Empire. "Battle group reports ready, Admiral," he announced. Admiral Drell nodded. "Proceed with the demonstration. Target their largest military installation on the northern continent." The lead warship powered up its main weapons array. On Earth, this would appear as nothing more than a slight brightening of what looked like a distant star. The humans wouldn't know what hit them. Firing in 3, 2, 1. A brilliant beam of energy lanced from the warship toward Earth. According to all calculations, it would strike the human military base with devastating precision. It never reached the atmosphere. 500 miles above Earth's surface, the beam struck something invisible. For a split second, a shimmering dome of energy flashed into view, absorbing the attack before fading back to transparency. Silence fell across the Orcs command deck. "What just happened?" Admiral Drell demanded. Science Officer Talia's hands flew across her console. "Some kind of energy shield, Admiral. But the configuration is unlike anything in our records." Commander Vex stepped forward. "A lucky countermeasure. Increase power and fire again." 3 warships fired simultaneously. Again, the shield flared into visibility, rippling with strange patterns as it absorbed the attack. "Impossible," Vex whispered. Down on Earth, in the underground command center of the Earth Defense Coalition, Professor Anna Miller watched the shield diagnostics with tense anticipation. For 5 years, she had led the secret Quantum Shield project, convinced by strange signals she detected that Earth might someday face this very threat. Few had believed her at first, but she had persisted, gathering a team of the brightest minds from around the world. Together, they had developed something revolutionary, a planetary defense shield based on quantum entanglement principles that operated outside the conventional physics that most spacefaring races relied upon. "Shield holding at 97% capacity," reported her assistant, Tom. "The absorption matrices are functioning better than we projected." General West stood behind them, watching the tactical display. "They're regrouping. Looks like they're bringing in more ships." Anna nodded. "As expected, they'll try to overwhelm us with raw power." In orbit, the entire Orcs battle group had formed a new attack pattern. All 20 ships now aligned their weapons on a single point of Earth's shield. "Full power," ordered Admiral Drell. "Sustained barrage." The combined firepower of 20 Imperial warships, enough energy to shatter a small moon, converged on Earth's defenses. The shield blazed into visibility, no longer transparent but a swirling, shifting dome of brilliant light. On the command ship, alarms began to sound. "Admiral," Talia's voice was strained, "I'm detecting a massive energy buildup in their shield. It's not just absorbing our attack. It's redirecting it somehow." Before Drell could respond, the shield pulsed. A wave of energy erupted from its surface, spreading outward like ripples in a pond. As it reached the Orcs ships, their systems flickered and failed. "Emergency power," shouted Commander Vex, but it was too late. 3 of the smaller warships went completely dark, drifting helplessly in space. The others struggled to maintain basic functions as their energy cores reset. "What kind of weapon is this?" Drell demanded. "Not a weapon, Admiral," Talia replied, her voice filled with professional awe despite the situation. "It's a system designed to harvest energy and return it as a disruptive wave. Ingenious, really. They've turned our own attack against us." In the Earth Command Center, Anna allowed herself a small smile. "Phase 1 complete. Their ships are temporarily disabled." General West nodded. "Launch Phase 2. Across Earth, hidden launch facilities opened. Small, unmanned craft rose into the sky. Hundreds of them, each no bigger than a car. They looked primitive, almost crude in their design. The Orcs sensors barely registered them as threats. "Admiral, the humans are launching some kind of drones," reported a junior officer. Drell dismissed them with a wave. "Their primitive missiles can't penetrate our hull plating. Focus on restoring our main systems." But these weren't missiles. As they approached the disabled Orcs ships, they didn't explode. Instead, they attached themselves to the hulls and began drilling. "Hull breach on decks 4 through 7, came the panicked report from one of the warships. "They're deploying some kind of nanomachines." Throughout the Imperial fleet, the same scene repeated. The tiny human drones had bypassed their defensive expectations completely, targeting specific systems with surgical precision. Admiral Drell watched in disbelief as the battle group's status indicators turned red one by one. "Retreat," he ordered quietly. "Full retreat." As the damaged Imperial ships limped away from Earth, the Admiral faced an uncomfortable truth. For the first time in his long career, he would have to report failure to the Imperial command. These humans were nothing like the other species they had conquered. They were something new. They were dangerous. The emergency meeting of Earth's United Council filled the great chamber with tense voices. Representatives from every nation sat around the massive circular table, their faces illuminated by the holographic display at its center showing the retreating Orcs ships. "We've won the first battle," General West announced, "but make no mistake, they will return with greater force." Silence fell across the room as the implications sank in. Their unexpected defense had bought them time, nothing more. Ambassador Thomas Reed rose from his seat, a tall man with silver hair and eyes that had seen decades of international diplomacy. He commanded respect without raising his voice. "We have an opportunity now," he said calmly. "The element of surprise has given us leverage, but it won't last. We must use this moment wisely." The Russian representative leaned forward. "What do you suggest?" "Negotiations. These creatures came to conquer us, not talk." "I propose we send them a message," Reed replied. "One they will understand clearly." Professor Anna Miller, invited to the council due to her role in the Shield's success, studied the data on her tablet. "Their communication systems are back online. We can reach them if we want to." The Chinese representative frowned. "And say what? Beg for mercy? Threaten them with weapons they now know we possess?" Reed shook his head. "Neither. I suggest we show them who they're dealing with." For the next hour, the council debated Reed's proposal. Some argued for immediate military action, to strike while the aliens were weakened. Others preferred to attempt traditional diplomatic relations, but gradually Reed's plan gained support from enough members to move forward. "Very well," said the council chairwoman. "Ambassador Reed, you will oversee the transmission. Let us hope these aliens understand the message." Aboard the Imperial command ship, Admiral Drell faced the harsh questions of his officers. "How could a pre-FTL civilization possess such technology?" demanded Commander Vex. "Our intelligence must have been flawed." Drell had no satisfying answer. His career, built on centuries of successful conquests, now balanced on a knife's edge. The Empire did not tolerate failure. "Admiral," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, aimed directly at our fleet." Drell straightened his uniform. "Put it through. Let's hear what these humans have to say." The main view screen activated. Instead of the face of a human leader pleading for terms, it showed only a simple set of numerical coordinates, Earth's position in the galaxy, followed by a series of images. The first images showed primitive humans in ancient battles, wielding spears and riding horses. Then came more recent warfare. Tanks rolling across landscapes, cities burning, nuclear explosions rising into mushroom clouds. "They're showing us their history of war," Talia observed, "trying to intimidate us with their violence." Drell watched silently. The Empire had conquered many warrior species before. The images continued, showing the rapid advancement of human technology. In mere centuries, they had progressed from simple flight to space travel. Their weapons evolved from gunpowder to nuclear to the quantum technologies that had just repelled the Imperial fleet. Then came something unexpected: blueprints and theoretical models of weapons that went beyond what the humans had already demonstrated. Antimatter containment systems, targeted wormhole generators, devices that could manipulate gravity itself. "Are these real?" Vex asked, his voice less certain than before. "Unknown," replied Talia, "but the theoretical foundations appear sound. They could potentially develop these within years, not decades." The final segment of the transmission showed a simple computer simulation. It depicted the full might of an Imperial invasion force. Hundreds of ships, far more than Drell currently commanded, approaching Earth. The simulation showed these ships being systematically disabled by increasingly advanced human defenses, then destroyed one by one. As the last simulated Imperial ship exploded, the screen went black. Text appeared in simple Galactic standard: Earth's coordinates. Exact location data. Our message: "We wish for peace. This is our only warning." The transmission ended. On the command deck, no one spoke for several moments. "A bluff," Vex finally said, though without conviction. "They cannot possibly have such capabilities." Admiral Drell turned from the screen. "Can we be certain? They just defeated our battle group with technology we didn't know existed." "What will you report to Imperial Command?" asked Talia. Drell considered his options. The Empire had never retreated before, had never considered any species an equal. But these humans were different. Their rate of adaptation alone was remarkable. And if even half of those theoretical weapons became reality? "The truth," he said finally, "that we have encountered a species that requires special consideration." As the Imperial fleet limped away from Earth, Ambassador Reed stood at the transmission center, watching the distant points of light fade. His gamble had been bold, showing humanity's violent past and theoretical future rather than begging for peace or making empty threats. "Do you think they understood?" asked General West, standing beside him. Reed nodded slowly. "I believe they did. We didn't threaten them directly. We simply showed them who we are, a species that has spent its entire history fighting itself, perfecting the art of war, and what we might become if pushed. And if they return anyway." Reed's eyes remained fixed on the stars. "Then we'll have to show them we weren't bluffing." The grand chamber of the Imperial command ship fell silent as Admiral Drell finished his report. 12 high-ranking officers sat around the gleaming obsidian table, their faces showing various degrees of disbelief and anger. Grand Admiral Verix, Supreme Commander of the Orcs expansion forces, stood at the head of the table. His weathered face betrayed no emotion as he replayed the human transmission on the central holographic display. "This is unprecedented," he finally said. "In 10,000 years of imperial expansion, no pre-FTL civilization has ever repelled even a scout force, let alone a battle group." Commander Jax, head of the assault division, slammed his fist on the table. "One lucky defense does not make these humans special. We should return with the full fleet and crush them immediately." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Empire had built its reputation on swift, decisive action. Hesitation was not in their nature. "Admiral Drell," said Verix, "you faced these humans directly. What is your assessment?" Drell chose his words carefully. After 5 centuries of military service, he knew his career hung in the balance. "The humans are unusual, Grand Admiral. Their technological development follows patterns we have not seen before. They appear to have focused intensely on certain areas of science while neglecting others." "Explain," Verix ordered. "Most species develop space travel, energy weapons, and defensive systems in a predictable sequence. These humans have somehow developed advanced quantum manipulation technologies without achieving basic interplanetary colonization. It's as if they sensed our coming and prepared specifically to counter our methods." From the far end of the table, a figure who had remained silent now spoke. Military strategist Krell was one of the oldest living members of the Empire, his mind honed by thousands of campaigns across the galaxy. "I have analyzed the human transmission," he said, his voice soft yet commanding attention. "There is something you have all missed." He gestured, and the display zoomed in on the historical footage the humans had sent. "Look at their warfare, not the weapons, but the strategies." His gnarled finger pointed to various battles throughout human history. "These humans have spent their entire existence fighting themselves." The chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. "Most species we encounter have had periods of internal conflict before achieving planetary unity," said Intelligence Officer Mira, a specialist in alien psychology. "But nothing like this. The humans have constantly fought each other, adapting and evolving their combat techniques for thousands of years." Strategist Krell nodded and noticed their rate of adaptation. In just one planetary cycle, during something they called World War II, their weapons technology advanced more than some species achieve in a century. Commander Jax scoffed. "So they're good at killing each other. That doesn't mean they can stand against the Empire, doesn't it?" Krell raised an eyebrow. "When threatened, these humans appear to unite and accelerate their development even further. Their recent shield technology demonstrates principles our own scientists have only theorized about." The display shifted to the blueprints from the human transmission, the weapons they claimed they could develop. "Our analysts confirm these designs are theoretically sound," reported Science Director Lorne. "If the humans devoted their resources to developing them—" "Impossible," interrupted Jax. "No species could develop such technology so quickly." Mira pulled up new data on her console. "My team has been studying their global information network. The humans have a concept they call open source development. When faced with a common problem, they share information freely across their planet, thousands of minds working together simultaneously." "And this helps them how?" Jax demanded. "It means they innovate exponentially faster than hierarchical societies like ours," she replied. "Under normal conditions, they're divided and progress is moderate. But when truly threatened," Grand Admiral Verix studied the simulation the humans had sent, the one showing Imperial ships being systematically destroyed. "You believe this could be more than a bluff?" he asked. "I believe," said Strategist Krell, "that these humans are uniquely dangerous precisely because they have spent millennia preparing for threats without knowing we exist. War is in their blood. It shapes their technology, their social structures, even their recreation. So what do you propose?" Verix's tone was measured. that the mighty Orcs Empire should turn away from a single primitive world. I propose we test them, Krell replied. Not with a frontal assault they're clearly prepared for, but something more revealing. The chamber grew quiet as he outlined his plan. Many officers looked skeptical, some outright opposed. The Empire did not proceed with caution. The Empire dominated. Yet the human transmission played again in their minds. We wish for peace. This is our only warning. Only warning. Not a plea, not a negotiation. A warning. Grand Admiral Varix considered the options before him. The Empire had conquered thousands of worlds, some far more advanced than Earth. Yet none had ever sent such a message. Confident, lacking fear, implying consequences rather than begging for mercy. Very well, he finally said. We will proceed with Strategist Krell's recommendation. Prepare a specialized force to test the humans' capabilities more thoroughly. As the officers filed out of the chamber, Krell remained, studying the frozen image of Earth on the display. Something about these humans troubles you greatly, observed Varix. The old strategist nodded slowly. In all my years serving the Empire, I have never encountered a species so naturally inclined toward both self-destruction and innovation. It makes them unpredictable. And you believe unpredictability makes them dangerous. I believe, Grand Admiral, that we may have finally encountered a species that thinks about warfare the way we do. Krell's ancient eyes narrowed, perhaps even more so. The red dust of Mars swirled around the dome-shaped buildings of Olympus Base, established 5 years earlier as humanity's first permanent outpost on another world. It housed just 37 people, scientists, engineers, and a small security team. Their mission was to study the Red Planet and prepare for future colonization. None of them had expected to become the front line in humanity's first interstellar war. Captain Lisa Hayes stood at the viewport, watching the storm outside. Since the alien retreat 2 weeks ago, the entire solar system had been on high alert. Earth's defenses remained at full power, its newly revealed military capabilities ready for the expected return of the Orcs Empire. But Earth wasn't their only foothold in space. Movement detected, called out technician Mike Foster from the monitoring station. Multiple objects entering Mars orbit. Hayes rushed to the console. The display showed 7 ships, smaller than the massive vessels that had approached Earth, but clearly of the same design. Send the alert to Earth Command, she ordered, and activate our defenses. The base had been equipped with a scaled-down version of Earth's shield technology, installed secretly during its construction. Professor Miller had insisted on protecting all human outposts, despite the enormous cost. That foresight was about to be tested. In orbit above Mars, Commander Traz of the Imperial Special Forces watched the small human base with professional interest. Unlike the main fleet commanders, Traz specialized in precision operations against unusual opponents. Sensors detect minimal defenses, reported his tactical officer. A small energy shield, similar to Earth's technology, but much weaker. Traz nodded. As expected. This outpost is barely developed. Begin the approach sequence. His ships descended toward the Martian surface in perfect formation. Their mission was clear. Test the humans' capabilities away from their main power base, gather tactical data, and evaluate their response patterns. They've spotted us, said the tactical officer. Their shield is activating. Proceed with Phase 1, ordered Traz. 2 of his ships fired precision weapons at the base's shield. As they expected, the energy barrier flared to life, absorbing the attack just as Earth's larger shield had done. But this small outpost couldn't possibly have the same power reserves. Inside Olympus Base, alarms blared as the shield absorbed the first attack. Shield holding at 83%, reported Engineer Torres. But we can't sustain multiple hits of that magnitude. Captain Hayes opened a secure channel to Earth. This is Olympus Base. We are under attack by Orcs forces, requesting immediate assistance. General West's face appeared on the screen. Hold tight, Hayes. Help is on the way. In the 2 weeks since the first encounter, Earth had been preparing. The prototype defense systems that had repelled the initial attack had been refined and expanded. Now they would be put to a new test. Commander Traz watched as his ships continued their careful assault on the Mars base. The human shield was weakening, just as predicted. Shield at 41%, reported his tactical officer. Estimated collapse in 7 minutes. Good, said Traz. Prepare ground forces for. Commander, interrupted the sensor operator. Multiple launches detected from Earth. Traz frowned. Show me. The display revealed dozens of small objects rising from Earth's surface, accelerating at impossible speeds toward Mars. Analysis, he demanded. The science officer studied the readings with confusion. They appear to be projectiles of some kind, but they're traveling far faster than should be possible for human technology. How long until they reach us? At current velocity, 14 minutes. Traz relaxed slightly. The base shield will be down in 7. We'll have secured the outpost before their reinforcements arrive. But as his ships pressed their attack on the Mars base, something unexpected happened. The human shield suddenly changed color, shifting from blue to a deep purple. Energy spike, shouted the tactical officer. They're doing something with the shield. Inside Olympus base, Captain Hayes watched as Engineer Torres activated the emergency protocol. Miller's Gambit is online, Torres announced. Shield reconfigured to focus mode. The weakened shield, instead of trying to cover the entire base, now concentrated into a narrow beam projected upward. It struck one of the attacking ships, not damaging it but covering it in a glowing network of energy. What are they doing? Traz demanded as his ship was enveloped in the strange energy field. It's some kind of targeting matrix, replied his science officer in disbelief. They're painting us. Before Traz could respond, the first of Earth's projectiles arrived, far earlier than predicted. They weren't conventional weapons, but specialized kinetic impactors, guided by the targeting matrix from the Mars base. The first ship was struck with devastating precision. The impactor, traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, punched through its hull like paper. Evasive maneuvers, Traz ordered, but more projectiles were already arriving. 3 of his 7 ships were destroyed in the first wave. The others scattered, trying to escape the deadly accurate fire from Earth. As Traz's ship pulled away from Mars, he received new sensor data that chilled him. The human base, rather than being a vulnerable outpost, had served as a targeting system for weapons launched from Earth, weapons that demonstrated acceleration and guidance technology far beyond what the Empire had believed possible for humans. Full retreat, he ordered. Send all data to the command fleet. The test was over, but the results were not what the Empire had expected. As the surviving Imperial ships fled Mars orbit, Captain Hayes allowed herself a small smile. Earth and its outposts were more prepared than the aliens knew. The Mars base might be small, but it had just played its part in humanity's defensive strategy perfectly. The Orcs Empire had launched its test. Humanity had passed with flying colors. The Grand Imperial Hall stretched nearly a kilometer in length, its ceiling lost in shadows high above. 10,000 years of conquest had filled this space with trophies from 1,000 worlds, monuments to the unstoppable power of the Orcs Empire. Today, for the first time in Imperial history, representatives from an undefeated world would walk these halls. Grand Admiral Varric stood at the head of the assembled Imperial Council. Beside him, military strategist Krell watched with ancient, knowing eyes as the massive doors at the far end of the hall slowly opened. 4 humans entered, looking impossibly small against the grand scale of Imperial architecture. Ambassador Thomas Reed led the delegation, his silver hair catching the light from distant windows. Behind him walked General Diana Foster, Professor Anna Miller, and Dr. Marcus Chen, Earth's leading expert on alien communication. They bring no guards, whispered Commander Jax, who had argued fiercely against this meeting. Are they fools or supremely confident? Watch carefully, replied Krell. This will tell us much. The humans walked steadily down the central aisle, their faces betraying nothing as they passed strange artifacts and mounted weapons from the Empire's campaigns. When they finally reached the Imperial Council, they stopped and stood in silence, neither bowing nor showing any sign of intimidation. Grand Admiral Varric spoke first. "Welcome to the heart of the Orcs Empire, representatives of Earth. You stand where no undefeated species has ever stood." Ambassador Reed nodded slightly. "We appreciate the historical significance of this moment, Grand Admiral. We come seeking understanding between our civilizations." Understanding. Commander Jax couldn't contain himself. "You repel our forces and speak of understanding." "We defended our world," replied General Foster calmly, "as you would defend yours. We seek peace, not conflict." Varric raised a hand, silencing further outbursts. "Your species has demonstrated unexpected capabilities. Tell me, did you prepare for our arrival specifically? Were you warned of our coming?" Professor Miller stepped forward. "No, Admiral. We prepared for the possibility of meeting advanced civilizations, friendly or otherwise. The universe is vast, but not infinite. Contact was inevitable. Yet your technology," said Science Director Lorne, "follows paths unlike any we have encountered. Your quantum manipulation techniques, your shield designs. Different evolutionary paths," Miller explained. "Human science has always been driven by theoretical exploration as much as practical needs. We sometimes solve problems before we need the solutions." Murmurs spread through the Imperial Council. This approach to knowledge was foreign to their methodical expansion. Strategist Krell leaned forward. "Tell me, humans, about your wars." The question seemed to surprise the delegation. Dr. Chen exchanged glances with Reed before answering. "Humanity has a long history of conflict," Chen admitted. "We have fought over resources, beliefs, territories, sometimes over mere ideas. It is not our proudest legacy. Yet it shaped you," pressed Krell. "Your technologies, your strategies, they evolved through constant adaptation to new threats." "Yes," said General Foster. "We learned to adapt quickly or perish. It made us resilient." Grand Admiral Varric studied the humans carefully. In his 5 centuries commanding Imperial forces, he had overseen the conquest of dozens of worlds. He had seen species beg, fight desperately, or surrender immediately. He had never encountered one that stood before the Empire as equals, neither aggressive nor submissive. "I have studied your message carefully," Varric said. "Your warning. It was not a threat, precisely, nor was it fear. What was it?" Ambassador Reed's expression remained calm. "It was truth, Admiral. Humanity does not seek war with the Orcs Empire. We would prefer peaceful coexistence and mutual exchange of knowledge. But if forced to fight for our survival." He didn't need to finish the thought. The test at Mars had demonstrated humanity's capacity for rapid adaptation and unexpected tactics. After a long moment of silence, Varric made a gesture. Attendants brought forward an ancient device, a spherical object covered in intricate symbols. "This is the Pact Sphere," Varric explained. "For 10 millennia, it has recorded the terms of planetary submissions to imperial rule." The humans tensed visibly, but Varric continued. "Today, it will record something new. Not submission, but alliance." Shocked whispers spread through the Imperial Council. Commander Jax looked ready to protest, but a glance from Varric silenced him. "The Orcs Empire has conquered where necessary and incorporated where possible," Varric said. "But we recognize advancement and potential when we see it. Humanity offers perspectives our empire has not considered, approaches to science and innovation that could benefit us both." Ambassador Reed stepped forward. "And what would this alliance entail, exactly?" "Exchange of knowledge, mutual defense, access to established trade routes across 20 sectors of space, and recognition of Earth as a sovereign partner, not the subject world." The human delegation conferred quietly before Reed spoke again. "We would need assurances and time to bring this proposal before Earth's United Council." Of course, Varix agreed. We respect proper governance. As the formal discussions began, strategist Krell moved to stand beside Varix. A bold decision, Grand Admiral, he said quietly. Some will call it weakness. Varix watched the humans as they reviewed the preliminary terms. Is it weakness to recognize a potentially costly victory, old friend? Our analysts project that conquering Earth would require resources equal to subjugating 10 standard worlds, and the outcome would remain uncertain. True, Krell admitted, but there is more. These humans think differently. They solve problems we have not considered from angles we would never approach. In time, they may prove more valuable as allies than as subjects. Far across the galaxy, the people of Earth watched their view screens nervously, waiting for news from the Imperial homeworld. When it finally came, the announcement of an alliance rather than war, celebrations erupted worldwide. Humanity had faced its first contact with an advanced civilization and emerged not as conquered subjects but as equals. The warning had worked, not because of the threat it implied, but because it had revealed a simple truth. Some species are more trouble to conquer than to befriend. And in the vastness of space, perhaps that was the most important lesson of all.